Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. My name is Natalia Motulska and this is the news. The coming days could be decisive for peace in the Middle East. So far, the situation in the region is becoming increasingly tense. More missiles are raining down on Lebanon. Israel is announcing a retaliatory attack on Iran, and Iran is calling for the destruction of targets in Israel. The list of countries evacuating their citizens from Lebanon is also increasing. On the ground in Jerusalem is our special Middle East envoy, Rafał Stańczyk. How do residents comment on the latest situation? A powerful explosion woke Beirut residents tonight. Israel attacked again. The morning showed the scale of the destruction. The target of the bombing was said to be a bunker where top Hezbollah officials, including its new leader, Hashim Safieddine, were in session. If this information is confirmed, it will be a powerful blow to pro-Iranian terrorist organization. But as always, such a blow is also a blow to civilians. We are not able to live normally. It's as if you are alive, but not alive. We don't know when the rockets will reach you and your family. We don't use such a word as security, because security has now become the hardest thing to find in Lebanon. The coming days and maybe even hours will be decisive for the future of the Middle East. Israel has already announced revenge, and Iran, through the mouth of its Ayatollah, is calling for further war against Israel. Any attack or action against Israel by individuals or organizations is a favor to the entire region, if not to all of humanity. The situation in the Middle East is being watched with concern by the world, including Israel's closest ally, the United States.
Mr. President, how confident are you that a all-out war can be averted in the Middle East?
How confident it's not going to rain? Look, I don't believe there's going to be an all-out war. I think we can avoid it, but there's a lot to do yet.
So far, a proxy war is going on in the Israeli-Lebanese border, controlled by pro-Iranian Hezbollah. Every day, missiles fall here. Soldiers and civilians are killed. Those who survived are fleeing to northern Lebanon.
So, as you may expect, the intensifying Israeli airstrikes and orders to evacuate for people in southern Lebanon are forcing more families in the country out of their homes, desperately looking for a safe spot. Now, with the areas targeted being expanded, the areas people had deemed safe earlier on are no longer so. So many people are having to flee and move over and over again. To date, most of the displacement in Lebanon is internal and within the country. The government estimates up to 1 million people have fled to places across Lebanon, and more than 185,000 people had actually chosen to cross the border to Syria.
After Spain, more countries are sending military aircraft to evacuate their citizens from Lebanon. The Polish Foreign Ministry is advising against travel to Lebanon and Israel, including Jerusalem in particular, and the areas bordering Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. From Jerusalem, Rafał Stańczyk, Republika. The problem of access to housing is one of the biggest challenges facing millions of Poles. MPs Kinga Gajewska and Arkadiusz Myrcha, who are a married couple, have found their own way to rent their apartment in the center of Warsaw at almost no cost. For renting a shared apartment, the politicians receive a double subsidy from the same chancellery. It turns out, however, that they found many more ways to make their lives easier. When you wonder why you have to go on a shorter vacation, when you think you're being paid a bit too little as a teacher, ask where your taxes go. Kinga Gajewska, while still an opposition MP, has repeatedly attacked Law and Justice for being wasteful. Unfortunately, one looks in vain for such videos of her after December 13th. It turns out that the question of where taxpayers' money is going should be asked now. Kinga Gajewska receives 4,000 zloty from the chancellery of the Sejm to rent an apartment in Warsaw. 3,750 zloty for this purpose is also received by Arkadiusz Myrcha, Deputy Minister of Justice, and privately the MP's husband. The total amount is 7,750 zloty per month. This is a kind of reactivation of the former Civic Platform's program, Family on Its Own. Only that it is with our money, The couple Kinga Gajewska and Arkadiusz Myrcha receive nearly 8,000 zloty every month to rent one apartment in Warsaw. Party colleagues were defended by Health Minister Izabela Leszczyna. Mr. and Mrs. Myrcha have 3 children. Mr. Myrcha is a deputy minister, so he is at work every day from morning to evening. Mrs. Kinga is a very active deputy. But they live in the same apartment. Is that okay? I mean, they could rent 2 apartments. I understand, on the same floor, for example. Gajewska declares that she lives in Błonie, just over 30 kilometers from Warsaw, from where it takes about half an hour to get to the capital by train. Arkadiusz Myrcha also has an apartment in his hometown of Toruń. But an apartment subsidy is not everything, as Kinga Gajewska herself admitted 2 years ago. The Warsaw program is much more helpful, as it provides a free nursery for every toddler in Warsaw, and we also use such a program. This allows us to work and be active in the Sejm. And here the question arises. How is it possible that a married couple who live outside of Warsaw collect almost 8,000 zloty every month from the Sejm's office, benefit from a free nursery program aimed solely for Warsaw residents? With disarming honesty, the answer was given by Arkadiusz Myrcha in one of the documents supplementing his asset declaration. Due to my parliamentary duties, I spend a large part of my working days in Warsaw. In order to provide children with a place in public educational institutions, I had to become a taxpayer in Warsaw. So the Warsaw residence is for purely tax purposes. In other words, in order to take advantage of free nurseries in Warsaw, Arkadiusz Myrcha claims to be a resident of Warsaw. And in order to receive subsidies for housing, he claims the opposite. Of course, someone could say, I made a mistake or some kind of wrongdoing. I'm taking a step backwards. And this guy keeps moving forward like nothing happened. He says that he pays taxes in Warsaw. I don't understand this document. I don't understand this translation. But the bonuses do not end there, from which the Civic Platform politicians who are married are taking full advantage. In the previous term, both Arkadiusz Myrcha and Kinga Gajewska were expected to drive more than 100 kilometers a day each. For each kilometer driven, MPs are entitled to a surcharge in the form of the so-called kilometer allowance. Just where do these trips come from, since they rent an apartment together in Warsaw? The whole story is all the more shocking because Arkadiusz Myrcha is the Deputy Minister of Justice. We asked the Justice Ministry about possible privileges, such as access to a chauffeur and a government limo related to his position. So far, there has been no response. Earlier today, the European Commission said it had received enough support in a vote of EU members to impose tariffs of up to 45% on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles in the bloc's highest-profile trade case, risking retaliation from Beijing. The Commission, which oversees the bloc's trade policy, has proposed final duties for the next 5 years to counter what it sees as unfair Chinese subsidies after a year-long anti-subsidy investigation.
Today, the European Commission's proposal to impose definitive countervailing duties on imports of battery electric vehicles from China has obtained the necessary support from EU member states for the adoption of tariffs. This represents another step towards the conclusion of the Commission's anti-subsidy investigation. In parallel, the EU and China continue to work hard to explore an alternative solution that would have to be fully WTO compatible, adequate in addressing the injurious subsidisation established by the Commission's investigation, monitorable and enforceable.
Our measures, our investigation, and the countervailing duties that we have been proposing are fully in line with WTO, our obligations under the WTO. And therefore, we expect that our trading partners will follow the same rules and follow the same procedures. And therefore, there is no warranted retaliation to something which is perfectly in line with our WTO obligations.
In a vote on Friday, 10 European Union members backed tariffs and 5 voted against, with 12 abstentions, EU sources said. It would have taken opposition from a qualified majority of 15 European Union members, representing 65% of the European Union population, to block the proposal. Reuters reported on Wednesday, October 2nd, that the measure was likely to pass with France, Greece, Italy, and Poland planning to vote in favor. The region's biggest economy and major car producer, Germany, voted against the proposal, sources said on Friday. The European Space Agency, in cooperation with Elon Musk's SpaceX, is preparing to launch the Hera spacecraft as part of its first asteroid defense mission. The goal of the project is to try to change the trajectory of an asteroid that could threaten the Earth and thus increase our space security. The Hera spacecraft weighs about 1,000 kilograms and is the size of a small car. It carries 11 instruments, along with 2 deployable CubeSat nanosatellites.
Hera is the first planetary defense mission of the European Space Agency. This is a new program that we have created recently, and the aim is to study and promote means of planetary defense, so to be able to defend the Earth from future threats, including asteroid strikes.
The planetary defense coordinator at the European Space Agency, Jean-Louis Cano, says Hera will help in understanding the physical properties of asteroids and especially their reaction to collisions.
Well, in the last decades, we have understood that there is a threat in space. We have learned that there are still lots of material that originated from the creation of the solar system that is still orbiting in orbits which are close to the Earth. And we have started to discover them in great numbers. So we have understood that there is a threat of asteroids falling to the Earth and actually cause damage to our societies. So we have to protect ourselves against that, and that's why the space agencies, and in particular the European Space Agency, is preparing in order to face that threat.
Attempts to change the trajectory of asteroids seem quite real and within humanity's reach. But the phenomena occurring on the Sun, 150 million kilometers away from the Earth, are beyond our control. We can only observe them. And right now, thanks to NASA, we are marveling at the largest solar flare in several years that is causing a gigantic geomagnetic storm. Scientists reassure we are not in danger, and watching the sky will be very exciting in the coming days, as spectacular auroras may appear. Meanwhile, the moon blotted out most of the sun across the Pacific Ocean, causing an annular eclipse of the Ring of Fire, visible for only a few minutes in the Easter Islands and a small area near the southern tip of Chile and Argentina.
It was amazing. My favorite part was when there was a perfect circle, like it was like a gold ring.
Yeah.
That was the best part.
I got excited when people shouted, and their enthusiasm made it even more exciting. I thought it would become darker, but still, it was beautiful. It was very beautiful when the red ring appeared. It was beautiful as it also carried symbolism with music. An annular eclipse happens when the moon is too far away from Earth to completely blot out the sun, like a total eclipse, creating a dark silhouette surrounded by a bright ring of light called an entumbra, or more casually, a ring of fire. That's all for the news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend.